What's up, guys? Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. I'm a little bit early today. I'm about a minute or two early. I don't know. I accidentally hit the start stream thing. I didn't realize. I thought it was 11 already. Whatever. It doesn't really matter. Today I'm early. Welcome everybody. Remember to like the video. Make sure you're still subscribed. All that good stuff. I had a moderator in the chats yesterday, and you may see him today. Muzza, just, he's helping out. That's all. Don't be scared. Greetings, everyone. Hi, Had Valmer, Raza Remen, Kuro Hikes, what's up? My dog is in my studio with me, and let's see how crazy she gets before I have to let her out. Ultra high carb life. What's up? Poppy Davis, what's up? Rich Diana, what's up? Rich Diana says, Kevin, I'm laying on my couch. Can we talk about my childhood? Well, tell me how that makes you feel, laying in your couch on a Friday afternoon. There's supposed to be a gas strike, and guess what? There's a worldwide gas strike. Cindy Seeley, what's up? Michael Arond. Okay, I may have to let my dog out because she's super hyper and also very clumsy. So she tends to just knock everything over whenever she's in a super hyper mood. Sometimes people get in the chats really, really early, like hours before the video. And then those chats sometimes disappear, like if they're hours early. When I get into the video, they disappear. But somebody in the very early chats asked if I would talk about aerosol masking effect and, what that means for this fall. Or if they asked if I would address that. I have no idea what aerosol masking effect or lack of will mean for the weather this year. I'm going on what other people have. Obviously, Guy McPherson has stated that, we could see a loss of global dimming, which would lead to a rapid rise in temperatures, which again would lead to a rapid collapse in ecosystems or habitat for humanity. All of that is possibly in play. And we don't really know because we don't have enough data. The data that we've received from March as far as like global temperatures, doesn't indicate that there's a rapid rise in heating right now. Not yet. Some places are warmer. Some places have seen, higher than usual temperatures in March. A lot of places actually saw lower than usual temperatures or normal temperatures. So, the data doesn't necessarily indicate that there's rapid heating going on as of yet. That doesn't mean that we won't see rapid heating in the next 3 months or 6 months. I have no idea. Kind of the only thing that we can do is keep an eye on the data and keep an eye on what's coming out, of various websites that keep an eye on temperature extremes or temperature anomalies, or and we also, obviously, it's good to watch. Hold on one second. Hey, chill out. I'm not trying to get you to bite my hand off right now. Obviously there's concern about Arctic ice melt and how that will go this winter. There's actually been a gain, an increase, an extent this winter because we had slightly cooler temperatures. Slightly cooler temperatures in the Arctic. So I don't know. I don't know if that means that indicates a possible reprieve, or just a status quo, a plateau. We're just hanging out. Maybe not a blue ocean event this year. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I wish I had more evidence of what exactly is happening. I wish I had more data. And there's a big debate about the aerosol masking effect in and of itself. Like how large is it? Is it really that bad? This is a good opportunity for scientists and or people who are watching the progression of climate change. This is a good opportunity to get a lot of data on the global masking, the aerosol masking effect, right? This is the time when we will know how much of a factor it really is. Because the only thing we really have to go on is the week or so after 9/11 when all the planes were grounded. That's kind of where all of this came from, was this 1 week of data, or whatever it was. It might have been a couple weeks, that they extrapolated into like, oh, look at this thing that's happened here. But that's kind of a single case scenario, obviously. So do we have any other scenarios where we can really measure a lack of aerosol masking effect? I guess the other, another case would be in Europe. Guy McPherson says that when we had the heat waves in Europe, I think it was in 2003, where thousands of people died because of extreme heat in Europe. Guy McPherson chalked that up to the closing of coal burning power plants. He tied that into a lack of aerosol masking. Again, I don't know if that's, I don't know if there's sufficient data or if there's a sufficient tie-in. I can't really say for sure. Sorry, I seem to be breaking up a little bit. Excuse me. Hold on one second. Let's see where I'm at. I mean, I got plenty of streams, so whatever. I'll just keep going. Had Vollmer says, I'm not dead yet. Nope, nobody's dead yet. Thankfully. Kuro Hikes. Thank you for the super chats. Got 2 super chats from Kuro. What does it mean California is a nation state? And then it says, if you don't know what I mean, Google it. Well, that's actually in the title of my video, California Goes Rogue. So yeah, I'm going to talk about a little bit about that today. Hey. But I'm not there yet. First of all, let's go just covering a few things. So there are some extreme weather happenings going on. Thunderstorms. There's a lot of thunderstorms going on for the last couple of days, mostly in the Midwest and the East Coast and the Southeast. It looks like Chicago got hit by some thunderstorms, heavy winds, topple trees. This is in New Jersey. Power lines down, trees downed, etc. I saw a post on Nick Humphrey's Facebook about thunderstorms. Thunderstorm warnings, in that general southeast, East Coast, in the mid-Atlantic into Midwest area. Also, there's been record heat in Texas. It's been quite hot the last couple of days. It looks like they're going to get a reprieve, but this is from yesterday or the day before, 2 days ago. They had highs in the high 80s and the 90s with a lot of humidity. So pretty much summer weather, and it's in April. But it looks like that they're going to get a cold front. We have a serious, thunderstorm, rain, and cold front in California. I mean, it's not even 50 degrees right now. That's how crazy. I mean, California rarely, kind of rare, even in winter, for California to get under 50 degrees. Okay, it's 52 degrees now, but it was like in the 40s all morning. Unseasonably cold. Hey. And, not typical. So we're getting cold extremes here. Looking at daily Arctic temperature, this is recent. We're above the 1958 to 2002 average. Of course, we usually are. Freezing degree days, we're down near the lowest. Oops, I don't know what happened there. Sorry about that, guys. I apologize. We're down near the low of freezing degree days. So Arctic is still seeing, I don't know why it's doing this. Dang it. Stop it. I see what happened. Anomalies. I mean, we're not as low as we were in 2016, 2017, or 2018, 19. But we're still down there. Again, we're above the trend line for high Arctic temperatures. Even though there's been lower days, I don't know if anybody's seen this graph here. So this is the last months in. This is 2019, so above average, and then we got kind of normal here, above, and then last month was low, below average. So, or below what it was, 32nd coldest month of the last month. So, anyways, just wanted to go through that. I hope you find that interesting. Just kind of an update on some weather extremes. If anybody is seeing other weather extremes. CB Unglesby, 36 in West Virginia today, 75 and 2. Yeah, I know. Well, so yeah, definitely. I know that your area has been getting higher than average temperatures. And the Washington, D.C. area has been higher than average. The East Coast generally up to about New York has been higher than average. Poppy Davis, 66 Fahrenheit today in San Antonio. I'm in heaven. Oh, yeah, I know. If you're in that kind of weather, that's kind of like California in the summer, when it's like sweltering and it's in the 80s every day. Like, if it gets down into the 70s, you're like, oh, Jesus, thanks for the break. I appreciate it. Let's move on. Where am I? Hold on, guys. I'm a little bit lost in my pages. Okay. So let me just, this is interesting. I saw this on Facebook yesterday, and I think I can do this without any weirdness. This is a post from a friend of mine on Facebook. He's generally more anti-establishment than most. Some might even put him in the conspiracy lane, or he's way outside the norm as far as like his information or what he's talking about on Facebook. What he says is, what I believe to date about COVID-19, or 1984 as some like to call it, and what is happening. It is real. It is very serious. Many people are dying from it. 3, not as many people are dying as they are reporting. They are in fact listing COVID-19 as the cause of death on many people who have not been tested and are presumed to have it. This is very problematic. 4, people's fear is being exploited by those in power in order to push agendas which have nothing to do with protecting lives and public health. 5, unprecedented wealth transfers and power grabs are taking place and being attempted. So, some people might see this and go, oh, conspiracy theorist. for the most part, knowledgeable people are following his posts. And a lot of people understand that what he's saying is actually correct. But, to a normie, to a mainstream media consumer, they might see that and go, that doesn't sound right. Well, not conspiracy at all. This is actually confirmed by someone in the Trump administration, Birx. So this is this woman, Deborah Birx, who is one of the people that gets out and, speaks on the virus update in their little, press conferences they have every day. Confirmed. Birx says government is classifying all deaths of patients with CV-19 coronavirus as COVID-19 deaths, regardless of the cause. This is actually from 2 days ago. So, he was probably getting his information just from the news. The federal government is classifying the deaths of patients infected with the coronavirus as COVID-19 deaths, regardless of any underlying health issues that could have contributed to the loss of someone's life. Dr. Deborah Birx, the response coordinator for the White House Coronavirus Task Force, said the federal government is continuing to count the suspected COVID-19 deaths, despite other nations doing the opposite. There are other countries that if you had pre-existing conditions and let's say the virus caused you to go to the ICU and then have a heart or kidney problem, she said during a Tuesday news briefing at the White House, some countries are recording that as a heart issue or kidney issue and not a COVID-19 death. The intent is if somebody dies with COVID-19, we are counting that. Asked whether the numbers could skew data the government is trying to collect, Birx said that would mostly apply to more rural areas where testing isn't being implemented on a wide scale. I'm pretty confident that in New York City and New Jersey and places that have these large outbreaks in COVID-only hospitals, I can tell you they are testing. In the normal course, autopsies would then... Oh, wait, hold on. Dr. Michael Baden, a Fox News contributor, said it's reasonable to include the death of someone infected with the virus who also had other health issues. But yes, I mean, this makes the numbers a little fuzzy. And if you're a person that's, on the side of like maybe they're hyping this a little too much, well, this could possibly confirm your idea that this is, being hyped. And, according to my friend's post and according to what we've seen in actual reality, that, the hype is being used for nefarious intent by those in power, right? It's for a wealth grab, for a power grab, for civil liberties, suppression. So this is very interesting that they're copping to this. Again, conflicting information, right? There's lots of conflicting information about the virus, about who's dying, about how many are infected, about what it is we're supposed to be doing. Excuse me. All kinds of conflicting information out there. And I think that, nothing is off limits as far as trying to investigate what's really going on, and even the idea of investigating what's really going on, quote unquote. Oh my God. Well, if you're not sitting around just taking in the mainstream media and the news hype, well, if you're not totally submitting to, everything that they're telling you to do and everything that they're telling you is true, well, then you're a lunatic, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're a danger to other people, possibly even. Again, here's more you want to be confused some more, guys? Here's more confusing news. The coronavirus, this is according to Korean CDC. The coronavirus may be reactivating in people who have been cured of the illness, according to Korea's Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Reactivating is an interesting word because that means that the virus at one point activates. I'm being semantic now. If the virus activates instead of you catch the virus and you immediately get sick? Or do you have the virus and it activates and then you get sick? Well, these are all important distinctions. About 51 patients classed as having been cured in South Korea have tested positive again. The CDC said in a briefing on Monday, rather than being infected again. The virus may have been reactivated in these people. Okay, this is frightening, and also very interesting news, right? You know, you're not getting infected again. You're not getting the virus again. The virus is being reactivated. How and why that happens, they don't really know. They actually don't know. Given they tested positive again shortly after being released from quarantine, that says Jung Eun-kyung, Director General of the Korean CDC, while we are putting more weight on reactivation as a possible cause, we are conducting a comprehensive study on this. Jung says there have been many cases when a patient during treatment will test negative one day and positive another. What the hell? Patient is deemed fully recovered when 2 tests conducted with a 24-hour interval show negative results. As of Wednesday, well, hold on one second. Epidemiologists around the world are in a race to find out more about the virus that causes COVID-19 because they don't really know necessarily everything that's going on. So South Korea did not do a full-on lockdown and had a better recovery. They're on a downward side of the virus, so that's good for them. Okay. Just wanted to add some more confusing information in there for you guys because I'm sure you appreciate that. Let's move on. So this is, a lot of people saw this and were like, what the hell is happening? Gavin Newsom declares California a nation state. What does this actually mean? Does this mean that, California is going to break away and we're going to have like a civil war? Or, we're going to have war break out on the continental U.S. because California is going to secede from the Union. I don't really think that's where it's going right now, but let's read on. This is from yesterday. The state is at odds with the federal government over coronavirus plans and much else. California this week declared its independence from the federal government's feeble efforts to fight COVID-19 and perhaps from a bit more. The consequences for the fight against the pandemic are almost certainly positive. The implications for the brewing civil war between Trumpism and Americans' budding 21st century majority. So that's a little bit. What does that mean? They're saying that people that think like everybody in California is the majority. I don't know. It's the majority in California, I guess, but elsewhere, people might beg to differ. Embodied by California's multiracial liberal electorate are less clear. And by the way, California is a Democratic supermajority, but that doesn't mean that California doesn't have a really large right-wing contingency. There are pockets of conservatism in California that are, very, very strong and very vocal. They just happen to be outnumbered in the majority. Speaking on MSNBC, Governor Gavin Newsom said he would use the bulk purchasing power of California as a nation state to acquire the hospital supplies that the federal government has failed to provide. Well, and also, let me just go back for a second. It's interesting that they imply that multiracial necessarily equals liberal. I mean, I have a black friend that voted for Trump. I have, friends that I've known for many years all along my timeline, born and raised in Southern California, who are Trumpers, um, the lines are not very clear, and even the lines against, on a racial divide are not very clear. There's also, plenty of Latino. I know plenty of Latino people who are our Trumpers. So it's not clear that they are liberal. So this is kind of like a weird thing to say. But anyways, we'll just assume that the majority of Californians are liberal. Let me see. I lost my place because I went off on a tangent. I apologize. Newsom is accomplishing... Let me see. Here we go. Speaking on MSNBC, Gavin Newsom said that he would use the bulk purchasing power of California as a nation state, quote unquote, to acquire the hospital supplies that the federal government has failed to provide. If all goes according to plan, Newsom said California might even export some of those supplies to states in need. Nation state, quote unquote, export, quote unquote. Newsom is accomplishing a few things here with what can only be a deliberate lack of subtlety. First and foremost, he is trying to relieve the shortage of personal protective equipment, a crisis the White House has proved incapable of remedying. Details are a little fuzzy, but Newsom, according to news reports, has organized multiple suppliers to deliver roughly 200 million masks monthly. That's good. That's pretty good. Second, Newsom is kicking sand in the face of President Donald Trump after Newsom's previous flattery, the coin house realm, failed to produce results. That's funny. King Donald Trump. Who is the fairest of them all? Oh, that doesn't work. Well, then fuck you then, Trump. If Trump can't manage to deliver supplies, there's no point in Newsom continuing the charade, whatever you want to say. Third, and this may be the most enduring effect, Newsom is sending a powerful message to both political parties. So far, the Republican Party's war on democratic values, institutions, and laws has been a largely one-sided affair, with the GOP assaulting and the Democratic Party defending. The lethal ruling this week by the U.S. Supreme Court's Republican bloc, which required Wisconsin residents to vote in person during a pandemic that shut down polling stations, is a preview of the fall campaign. The GOP intends to restrict vote by mail and other legitimate enfranchisement, to suppress turnout amid fear. Or did they mean disenfranchisement? I don't know. Uncertainty and disease. Well, yes, they're doing that. Don't forget that the Democrats are doing that as well. So, yes, the GOP is definitely doing that. But that doesn't mean that the Democrats aren't engaged in the same disenfranchisement. At some point, the Civil War by other means, with the goal of enshrining GOP minority rule, will provoke a Democratic counteroffensive. Newsom, leader of the nation's largest state, is perhaps accelerating that response, shaking Democrats out of denial and putting Republicans on notice. California, an economic behemoth whose taxpayers account for 15% of individual contributions to the U.S. Treasury, is now toning up at Muscle Beach. I love the verbiage in this article. What that means, of course, is left to the imagination, but not much is required to envision what might evolve. Newsom, a former lieutenant governor who won the top job in 2018, has used the nation-state phrase before. It's a very odd thing to say. California, like its 49 smaller siblings, qualifies only as the second half, but it's obviously no slip of the tongue. Democratic State Senator Scott Wiener, a leader in California's cumbersome efforts to produce more housing, said soon after Newsom took office in 2019 that reorienting the state's relationship to Washington is a necessity, not a choice. Anyways, very interesting. I mean, a lot of the states have been left kind of to figure things out on their own anyways. So, there are already disparities in how states are dealing with the coronavirus and their response. So, this is how California has chosen to respond. I don't know. There's, the fact that they continue to, put bonds on the measures, on local measures in local elections to try and like raise taxes for, schools or raise taxes for roads or whatever. He was like, I'm sick of these bonds. I'm sick of like voting for these taxes when they continue to cry that they don't have enough money. They don't have enough money for schools. They don't have, we continually vote in these bond measures and vote for the raising of taxes in California. And we're constantly at a shortfall. And I remember years ago when Gray Davis was governor, this is many, many years ago. It was uncovered that there was all kinds of economic malfeasance going on in the government. There were giveaways to corporations, and there's mismanagement, just rampant mismanagement of the budget. And Gray Davis was a Democratic governor, and there's nothing really that points to the fact that still isn't happening. That there's massive economic mismanagement. And so, having a supermajority Democratic government in California doesn't necessarily mean that, things are going to be, so much better for people or less corrupt. We still don't, we're supposed to have Medicare for all in California. We're supposed to have like a California Medicare for all. We don't have it. It was actually voted on, I think. People said, yes, we want this. And the government, the California government was like, nope, we can't give it to you. It was shot down by a Democrat. A Democrat who was bought off by the, lobbyists, pharmaceutical. So it's the same money go round. It's the same bullshit. Whether Democrats are in control or Republicans. So, and as I just read yesterday, Newsom and the Democratic controlled supermajority government has given, fracking permits out again, can't seem to find out how to can't figure out how to house the homeless until there's a coronavirus outbreak. And then all of a sudden, oh my God, we have money for the homeless. Well, golly gee willikers, how did that happen? Okay, so lastly, I'm going to go back to, I know you're probably as sick of hearing or talking about Bill Gates as I am, but he just seems to be everywhere in the news right now. I'm not really sure why that is. Everybody seems to be really worried about what Bill Gates has to say. So this was tossed around on Facebook yesterday. I saw it a few times. And, as typical for Facebook, it's a little bit old. People like to keep sharing like old articles on Facebook, even like 4 or 5 years old. Like, oh my God. The other day, somebody shared like the Green Party asked Bernie Sanders to run. I immediately was like, that's 4 years old. And people were passing around like, all right, go Bernie. They're like, okay, read the date, please, guys. Anyways, this isn't that old. This is from September 7th, 2019. So a few months ago, this Bill Gates funded chemical cloud could help stop global warming. When I saw this, I thought like, is this new? Is this new technology? Is this a new thing? And then I started reading it. It's actually just geoengineering. It's just SRM, solar radiation management. But apparently Bill Gates is funding it, so that makes it, again, something that people want to spread around all over the place. But it's interesting that, he's funding this, sure. The technology is not far from being ready, and it's affordable, it's et cetera, et cetera. So again, this news story about, this is the part that is interesting to me, because they keep saying like, they're about to experiment with this solar radiation management. It's about to happen. Which, if you have been covering, I mean, if you've been listening or paying attention to the geoengineering news for the last couple of years, they keep pushing out these articles, quoting David Keith or Ken Caldera or somebody. Oh, we're about to do these experiments and we're going to see if this works or not. Which is laughable to me because it is 2020. The idea that they don't understand if this works or not, or aren't really quite clear on the mechanisms and how it's like the idea that they don't understand this in 2020 is just hilarious and laughable to me. I don't believe this. I'm sorry if you think that makes me a conspiracy theorist. I think that if you think they don't understand whether this works or not, or haven't tested this, that you are an absolute fucking moron. Because if you think that they've just been sitting around so let me give you a little bit of history on this, because before I go off ranting and raving. Let's see, where are we? So yeah, they're giving you this this idea that this is a new technology and nobody knows how it works or what's going to happen. So here's from, again, last year, for years. So this starts out for years. Several Harvard climate scientists have been preparing to launch a balloon capable of spraying reflective particles into the atmosphere. Really? They've been preparing for years and years. We've been wondering, how is this going to work? We just don't know. We've been sitting around wondering when we're going to just release this balloon into the atmosphere to study the effects. It's 2020. We don't even know yet. Golly gee willikers. We've all been sitting around in a field in Arizona or Utah, or wherever the fuck, looking at a balloon, just going like, yeah. Anyways, again, here's a little. This is just random. This is from Wikipedia. Ken Caldera, who is part of the research team that is just sitting around waiting and wondering when this balloon is going to go up in the air. And, it's going to be very interesting when it goes up, this balloon that we've been looking at. We've been staring at this balloon for years. Just staring at it. Just wondering. So Caldera has been at work in this stuff for a long time. He received a PhD in atmospheric sciences in 1991. He worked at Penn State University. So, but after that, come on, dog, come on. From 1993 until 2005, Ken Caldera worked at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory as an environmental scientist and a physicist. This is before he began his current position at Carnegie Institution, Department of Global Ecology. He's, has been writing papers on ocean acidification. I mean, he's interested in climate science. But this is another interesting thing about this. He left this board he was on with the IPCC. Let me see. Why did he leave the board? Hold on one second. I lost my place a little. He resigned as lead author of IPCC AR5 chapter, stating, "I think the IPCC has been extremely useful in the past. I believe the IPCC could be extremely useful in the future. My resignation was made possible because I believe the chapter team that I was part of was on the right track, doing an excellent job without my contribution." Anyways, whatever. He thinks they're fine. So he's really interested in getting, answers to climate change and, helping mitigate climate change immediately. But he's been one of the people that have been sitting around staring at a balloon for a really long time, wondering whether this works or not. Let's move on. So this is Lawrence Livermore. He worked there for a long time. Some of their missions: biosecurity, counterterrorism, defense, energy, intelligence, science, and weapons. Non-proliferation. That's nice and peaceful. Programs: global security, NIF photon science, weapons and complex integration, computing engineering, physical and life sciences. So they do, nice, peaceful things, but they also do really insane things as well. These guys work on all kinds of craziness. Let me just, this is very interesting. Global security. It's very peaceful. Tree here. New carbon economy takes shape. They're just being helpful to people. And then you go down here. Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory-led study finds any single hair from the human body can be used for identification. Okay. Nothing sinister in that whatsoever. But it's good that they're on the case. I'm just kind of doing a little overview, guys. So sorry if you, sorry if this is boring. Maybe this is interesting. I don't know. Let's look at this. This is from Harvard.
One aspect of the climate problem that people sometimes don't appreciate is the time scale. The fact that a large fraction of the carbon we're putting in the atmosphere will still be there thousands, even tens of thousands of years from now. But another part of the time scale of climate change is the time scale of the energy systems on which our society is built. Switching our energy system from a fossil fuel-based one like it is today to a non-fossil energy system would take, at the very least, many, many decades, and probably much more than a century, and tens of trillions of dollars, and that's just for the US alone. The numbers are just staggering.
The numbers are staggering. Hold on, I want to stop that. The numbers are staggering, but so you know where this is going. He's going to tell you why they need to do solar radiation management, because it's going to take decades to change our energy system, if not a century. How long did it take to actually build our energy systems? We went to a rapid expansion of, electricity and cars and roads and planes, kind of like it was like a century ago, wasn't it? It took that long to kind of slowly develop all these technologies. And here we are in a global pandemic. And how long did it take to actually stop all those things? It took like a couple of weeks. How long would it take to turn over our energy systems? Decades, really? Would it really take decades? We've shut down, half of our emissions, 50% of global emissions. I'm just guessing. I'm just throwing that out there as a number. In a couple of weeks, if we really made a concerted effort, really decades or even a century. I don't see that. Anyways, moving back on. I just wanted to show that. I just thought that was an interesting point that they wanted to say that, this is how long it's going to take. I want to just move on. Okay, so this is the last thing I wanted to talk about. Give me 1 second. I know, you're just watching a screen. This is Geoengineering, History and Prospect. This is from David Keith at Harvard. This is from the Department of Engineering, Carnegie Mellon. This is very interesting. He wrote, David Keith wrote this. This is the history, a little bit of a history of geoengineering. But I'm just going to go through some, hopefully high points. Possibility of using geoengineering to counteract anthropogenic climate change is deeply controversial. We know this. Historical perspective is vital to understanding the role of geoengineering in human choices about climate. Yes. Hold on. I'm trying to get to the good stuff. It's in here. So he distinguishes between geoengineering and carbon management. Obviously, carbon management is, better. So this is what I wanted to get to. The correspondence between 1960s. So, the interest, as we will see, weather and climate modification or weather control was a centerpiece of research in the atmospheric sciences during the 1950s and 60s. So this is a while ago, guys. 60 or 70 years ago. In that context, what are now called climate impacts was then called inadvertent climate modification. Very good wording there. And what is now called geoengineering bears inadvertent climate modification. That's brilliant. Bears a strong similarity to what is then called weather or climate modification. We may ask, what degree of continuity exists between the older concerns about deliberate and inadvertent climate modification and current concerns about climate impacts and geoengineering? Let's go. In the USSR, sustained interest in weather modification predated World War II, beginning with the establishment of Leningrad's Institute of Rainmaking in 1932. That is a long time ago, where they were working on cloud modification, airborne cloud seeding, using calcium chloride, beginning as early as 1934. Experiments, guys, in 1934 in Russia. I mean, they're talking about rain, I know, but hold on. This is leading somewhere. 1950s and early 1960s, Soviet interest in climate and weather modification reached its zenith. A single experiment during the winter of 1960 to 61, for example, is reported to have cleared clouds over an area of 20,000 kilometers squared. Jesus. What were they doing? That's funny because he doesn't really say what it is they did to clear clouds 20,000 square kilometers. In the United States, despite common... So they knew how to do this in 1960. They knew how to do this in 1960. They knew how to do this in 1960. I won't repeat that again. In the United States, despite common use of the phrase weather and climate modification, the emphasis was almost entirely on weather control, particularly on the enhancement of precipitation. In contrast, in the USSR, there was a sustained interest in climate modification, although the bulk of the effort was likewise devoted to weather modification. Let's see. There's an interesting part in here. We find that most of the work during this period addressed the possibility of climate change owing to hydrological modifications, such as the construction of large reservoirs and physical or chemical control of evaporation. There was also a persistent interest in the grand project of removing the Arctic sea ice to warm Russia. The analysis of the day showed that annihilation of the ice cover of the Arctic would be permanent. Once destroyed, it would never be reestablished. Okay, they were like, yeah, maybe that's not such a good idea. One of the most extravagant of the proposals was to place aerosol Saturn rings in Earth orbit to heat and illuminate the polar regions. Independent proposals in 1958 and 1960 called for the injection of metallic aerosols into near-Earth orbit to form rings that would supply heat and light to northern Russia or would shadow equatorial regions to provide their inhabitants with the supposed benefits of a temperate climate. So they called for the injection. Did they actually do this? Did they actually do it? Did we do this, and would we know whether we actually did it? So that sounds like they're talking about geoengineering. That's a long time ago. They're talking about this idea of geoengineering. So no experiments went on between 1958 and now, or 1980, or 1990. No experiments. We just we thought about it, but we didn't do anything. Of course, we exploded nuclear weapons in the ionosphere, in the stratosphere. We did that. We totally did that. Kind of hard to hide that one. Weather modification became entangled in the politics of the Cold War in the 50s. Of course, the United States did use weather modification in the Vietnam War. That's been well documented. During the 1960s, federal support for weather and climate modification grew rapidly, reaching 10 million by the decade's end. A series of NAS and NSF reports echoed and occasionally quoted Houghton's claim, confirming the central importance of the topic in the atmospheric sciences and repeating concerns about Soviet leadership in the area. So if the Soviets were doing this, we weren't doing this too. We weren't experimenting in the same way. I find that very, very, very hard to believe. So remember, this is a history by David Keith, who works at Harvard, or Carnegie Mellon. I don't know where he's at. Supposedly he's at Harvard now. David Keith, one of the climate, leading geoengineerists. So here, United States began a campaign of cloud seeding in Vietnam that ultimately flew more than 2,600 sorties and had a budget of $3.6 million a year. Public exposure to the program in 1972 generated a rapid negative public reaction. But did they actually stop? Were they, we won't do that anymore. Beginning in the early 1960s, concerns about CO2-induced climate change and other forms of inadvertent climate modification became interwoven with work on climate and weather modification, if you like. Terraforming is planetary engineering specifically directed at enhancing the capacity of an extraterrestrial planetary environment to support life. Okie dokie. In addition to technical papers and mainstream scientific publications, includes popular fiction and work by environmental philosophers that examine the moral implications. Let me go down here. There's a little... So, I'm not going to read too much more of this. But thank you for indulging me. Arguably, the first high-level government policy assessment that stated the CO2 climate problem in modern terms was restoring the quality of our environment, issued in 1965 by Johnson's Science Advisory Committee. The report combined analysis of atmospheric CO2 content. So this is, long time ago. They knew all about climate change and the effects of CO2. Then combines concentration estimates with early radiative convective models to estimate temperature change. In concluding the section of the report devoted to climate, the one suggested response to the deleterious impact of CO2-induced climate change is geoengineering the possibilities of deliberately bringing about countervailing climatic changes, therefore need to be thoroughly explored. This is the one response that they did. They said it needs to be thoroughly explored. The report continues with analysis of a scheme to modify the albedo by dispersal of buoyant reflective particles on the sea surface. That's interesting, concluding a 1% change in reflectivity might be brought about for about 500 million a year. Considering the extraordinary economic and human importance of climate, costs of magnitude do not seem excessive. So they're saying, it's 70, 71. They did a study at MIT that, they're like, well, maybe this isn't a good idea. I really have a problem with the idea that, I have extreme skepticism with the idea that they knew about this technology in 1965. That they floated, ideas about this. They were investigating this. They were experimenting with this. They were, they were fucking around in every single other possible way with the atmosphere right? They were exploding they were doing nuclear weapons tests. They were just like, let's just see what happens. We'll explode this bomb in the middle of the desert, or we'll explode this bomb out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, or we'll explode this bomb in the stratosphere or the ionosphere. We'll do all this, insane shit. But no, we've never tried to geoengineer. And we've all been sitting around looking at a balloon for, at least a decade. Guys at, in Carnegie Mellon or Harvard or wherever the fuck, they've been sitting around just staring at a balloon going, well, one of these days we're going to put this balloon up there and we're going to see what really happens. It's preposterous. It is fucking preposterous. I don't care who the fuck you are. I don't care what degree you have. I don't care if you're a professor emeritus or you got a degree or you've life sciences or whatever the fuck. If you think they haven't done this already, you are a fucking idiot. You are a fucking idiot. You are a fucking idiot. You are a retard. You're a fucking idiot. If you're like, oh, they don't know yet. They've just been really they've been so concerned about the deleterious effects that they didn't. No, they haven't tried. No, you're a fucking idiot. You're a fucking idiot. I don't care. I don't care if I'm pissing anybody off. I don't care if I'm pissing anybody off. I don't care if you want to call me a conspiracy theorist. Yeah. No representation, says Kevin. Guy has gone over this. Of us knowing this, paper's going back to the 1890s. Well, yes. Yes, we know that this is, we've known about this. But the idea that we aren't doing or haven't experimented with or haven't done any kind of geoengineering at all up until now, that we're just sitting around looking at a balloon going like, well, we don't know whether it works or not, is fucking preposterous. It is fucking preposterous. So before you call somebody a conspiratard or a conspiracy theorist or these wacky geoengineering guys, these crazy guys that are talking about geoengineering, like, they're not that fucking crazy. They don't know, but the thing is they don't know any more than anybody else does what's really going on, because we don't have any transparency on this. People are just really asking for transparency. We don't have transparency on this. And that is the problem. That's the main problem. There's this idea that, Bill Gates is backing this thing that, soon we're going to do an experiment and then we'll really know. Like, that whole concept is just ridiculous. It is just ridiculous. Like, so dumb. Like, so just, whatever. I don't know why I went off on this tangent. I just find it funny that this story keeps coming out. That, oh, we're going to do this experiment soon. Here's this idea. It's wild and wacky and crazy. And everybody's like, whoa, no, say it ain't so. It's already been done, man. It's been done. It's been done. It's been tested. They know what the effects are. Whether it's being done, minimally or, at all, nobody knows. But it's been done. It's been tested. It's been tried. They've already, they've got so much data on this already. They absolutely know how it works, how well it works, what the fuck the results are. They already know. If you don't think they already know, you are an absolute idiot. Thanks, Jacob Gordon. I just told you how I really feel. But anyways, I'll stop ranting and raving. Anyways, yeah. And what is so the importance of transparency on this is we have been talking about the aerosol masking effect, the global, the effect of global dimming. If something is already going on, or if limited or widespread, how is this affecting what we know? What's been doing? What are they doing right now? Like, if they know all about the aerosol masking effect, if they know about global dimming, if they know about the effects of geoengineering, and they know its effectiveness or not, are they doing it? Are they like, well, let's get this cranking because we've lost all this global dimming, so we're gonna, to counter the effects of the global dimming because we know all about global dimming. What are they doing? Does anybody really know? Does anybody really know? And So I have questions. Those are my questions. My questions are like, what is really happening? And I just, um, it's frustrating. It's infuriating, and I don't. I'm not. Again, I'll say it again. I've said it 3 million times. I'm not one of those like they're spraying us and they're everything is because of geoengineering. I'm not one of those people at all. I feel like climate change is the main driver of the changes in the Earth system. And what's the driver of climate change? The driver of climate change is inadvertent climate modification, what David Keith spelled out. Our pumping of pollutants and toxins into the atmosphere and into the Earth systems is modifying our Earth systems. So that's the main driver. But it's the untold, it's the unknown things that are going on that could have really gigantic ramifications, and we have no way to gauge. How do we know what the actual effects of the aerosol masking is, or global, the loss of global dimming? How do we know? How would we know? How would we know what the actual data is? I have no idea. I have no idea. So, that's all. I had to just kind of get into that. I hope you guys found that interesting. Rich Diana worked that bully pulpit, Kevin. I'm working it. I just, I just would like to, I would like somehow, some way, someone, else to come forward with some kind of, knowledge about this. I know there's plenty of people out there that talk about this. I just think it's a valid area of study. It's a valid area of concern. It's a valid area of question. I think calling geoengineering people conspirators is a fucked up thing to do. It's really stupid. And I also think that, thinking everything is a conspiracy is really dumb. So I'm not really in that camp either. But just, relax on the whole conspiracy theory thing, guys. Just, for those of you who are like to name call people who are questioning this, I think, people are fully in their rights to question this stuff, given the information that's out there. But Winka says, actually now even weather experiments play a part in Russian strategy doctrine. Duggan's Great Eminence of Putin called the weather just another kind of weapon. Yeah, well, and they knew this, and they understood this, apparently, almost a century ago. Decades and decades and decades ago. They understood this was important, and they have been doing whatever they're doing, experimenting, manipulating, etc. Thank you, Rosie. Yes, I do feel much better now. Nonagmo says BBC did. Yeah, they did do a good documentary on that, and they actually, that was built on some of the evidence from what happened after 9/11. Jody Connolly, watch your mailboxes. Government check thieves are running around. Yeah, good idea. I actually had mine mailed to a P.O. box, so no worries there for me. I already got mine, though. Poppy Davis, thank you. I feel better after your rent, Kevin. Thank you. Raise hell in your garage. That's really all I can do at this moment in time. Raza Remen, we are all suffering from cognitive dissonance due to 5G. Maybe. I think I got another super chat in here. Let me shout that out. Kiro Hikes, thank you. It's crazy to think 0 experiments have been done. I'm with you, Kevin. Thank you. Yeah. This whole idea that they're just like, well, we don't know yet. No. Nope. But they're going to roll it out. They're going to roll it out, in a couple of years, maybe next year, maybe later this year, maybe, I don't know. So, expect an article to come out sometime soon or some kind of report. And they're going to be like, well, we went ahead and did this crazy experiment, guys. Or maybe they'll never do it. Maybe they'll just keep saying that year after year after year. And we're going to be just sitting around going like, I wonder when this geoengineering thing is going to get off the ground. I wonder. Oceanic Estate, the check. No, not all of them are direct deposit, man. I got mine in a check. But, you know, some of them are. Or I don't know if you're joking or not. Maybe you are. All right, guys. I got to take off. I have reached the end of my time, the limits of my limit. Gene, exactly. I want to know if the experiments are hurting us more. Exactly. And I think that's, you know, all those questions. Those questions are valid. Very valid. But I don't know if we're ever going to get answers. Who knows? But, you know, we're definitely not going to get answers if people are, like, calling people names for even questioning what's going on or, you know, bringing up the subject. Oh, my God, you're one of those people. Oh, my God, oh, God, oh, God. Snopes told me it was untrue. They debunked this. Yeah. Anyways. All right, guys. Have a good one. I'll see you back here tomorrow at the same bat time. Thank you for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. Until next time, peace.